everyone, welcome to my studio. It's springtime and there's beautiful flowers blooming everywhere. So we're going to be painting En Plein Air today, which means painting outside. The French were the first to do it, and we're going to follow their lead today as we paint some wildflowers, and we have a backdrop of some silhouetted trees and maybe a barn. Okay, I'm going to do a really simple landscape here. It's a gray day, so I'm going to just pick up a little bit of black on my brush and a little blue violet, and maybe a little bit of yellow. I'm using my Crayola watercolors, which are great, and that makes a really nice gray. That's a little too purple, so yeah, that's good. I don't want it to look muddy. I want it to be a little cooler. There we go. I'm just going to wash in a sky here. I'm going to leave some areas white. Now, if you want instructions on how to prevent buckling with your watercolor paper, you can go to my lesson on how to prevent watercolor buckling and learn how to stretch your watercolor paper. I stretched this paper yesterday, and so it's ready to go, and it's not going to buckle up on me as I paint. So I like the soft grays, but if you want to, add a little cerulean in there, like there's a little bit of blue poking through, go for it. There's really so many ways to create a nice sky. Just a little bit of blue in there. It's kind of a warmer blue. Okay, so for this, I don't want too much sky because it's just kind of a gray day, like I said. I want more field. So I'm only using about a third of this space for my sky, and the other 2/3 is going to be for my field. Now, this field that I have out here is tilled. It's ready for planting, so it's not super pretty right now, but we're going to pretend like it's full of wildflowers, just like this field is that I'm sitting in. So I'm going to paint some green, but I'm going to mix up a green here. This green is just a little too bright. A little bit too bright. It is springtime. Hi, buddy. This is Hue, by the way, which means color. H-U-E. And he just got muddy paws. This is what it's like painting in plein air. Sometimes it's a little raw. Okay, this is a nice spring green, but it may be a little bit too bright, so I'm gonna add just a little tiny bit of pink to it, just to tone it back a little bit. You can see it's still really bright. And I'm just gonna wash in this green color in my field. I need a lot more than that. I left a little bit of space up here because I'm actually going to silhouette some trees that are just right on the horizon line there. In fact, we can go ahead and do that now. There are some barns out there too. We might paint a barn as well. All right, now for my trees that are silhouetted in the background, again, this green is just too intense. I'm going to tone it way back. A little bit of pink, maybe even a little red. the red's probably better. You probably don't even need pink. It's too light. So this is better. Now I'm going to need a lot more pigment than that. It's just too watery. So I'm going to pick up quite a bit and have less water on my brush so I get just a lot more pigment in here. And you want your trees to be airy. You don't make them into blobs. So if you do that, they just look really heavy. So to avoid that heavy look, I leave some air, some sky showing through the tops of my trees here. I've got some tree foliage that's just kind of hanging out here in space all by itself. Now toward the bottom, you want it pretty solid. That gives the illusion that there's maybe lots and lots of trees. So we'll let that dry. Okay, now we're going to paint some flowers in our field, and I'm just going to do some, well, let's do some, you can have as much fun as you want here. Let's do some little red flowers. Little patches of maybe phlox. Now in the foreground, notice I'm painting down low in the picture frame. This is where I might see individual flowers, whereas toward the background, as we go farther away, you're just going to have swashes of color. You're not going to see, you're just going to see like just a swash of pink or yellow. You won't see the details and you won't see as bright a color back there. Now we need some bluebonnets too, so I'm going to create a nice bluebonnet color. I'm using these really great brushes. These are by Shuttle Art, and this is a number 3 round brush. I love this brush. And then this one is also Shuttle Art, and it's a 12, and it's an angled flat brush I use for my wash. Inexpensive and really great brushes. So bluebonnets here in Texas in March and April. That's really nice bluebonnet color right there. If you want to add a little bit of violet to it, you can. And I'm going to add some of this color into my field. And again, as you go farther and farther up in the picture frame, that gives the illusion that things are farther away. So less color, less detail. And once again, we'll have just kind of a swash of little bluebonnet patches. They kind of grow in patches. Kind of mix them in here. You can come in and do a little more pink here. Okay, now if I want to paint a barn, I can. There's several barns out there. I'm just going to choose one that I like. I like the metal one, the rusty metal. So I'm going to take this color. It's actually really good. This color we use for our bluebonnets, but it's a little bit too bright. So in order to tone it back, I'm going to use a complementary color, which is going to be yellow. So check this out. Watch what happens to this color when I add a little yellow to it. It grays it down. That's actually beautiful. So I'm just going to do a little barn shape here. It's got these rusty panels too, so I'm going to add a rusty color in there. Definitely need some more pigment here. It's just a little bit soft. It's important too that your sky is dry. You can see that my barn is bleeding into the sky a little bit. I could have given it another minute, but I think we're just going for it. It looks pretty good. Okay, now I want a rusty color. So I need an orange, but this is not exactly a rust color here. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of violet, blue violet to it. And that is a nice rusty orange color. Okay. All right, now we just need some details and we need to darken up some areas. Not quite dry yet. It's pretty humid out here. We have had a lot of rain, so our wildflowers are looking good. A little bit darker green here. I'm going to add a little texture here in the foreground for my grass. This is really an impressionistic way of painting. I'm not worrying about any details. I'm just thinking about my composition and where I see color and what those shapes look like. I could also add a little bit of yellow. Now to clean my little yellow watercolor cake, I just wet my paper towel and just wipe it out. The yellow needs to be cleaned often. I want to make sure I get plenty on my brush so it shows up. I love it. You can even splatter a little bit. You don't want too much water on your brush when you do this with such a small painting. You'll get a big blob of water and you'll be disappointed. Okay, now I need a darker kind of shadow here. I need a really dark green. So I'm going to take one of these dark greens. Hi, Shade. This is Shade. Hi. And red. You can't get up here, baby. No, thank you. See, that red and green makes a really dark green, which I'm going for it. I'm just putting a little bit of a shadow here in this silhouette. This will give some depth and dimension and texture to my trees back here. Otherwise, they just look flat. You can even add a little black, maybe. I don't want to cover up all that light. Just adding another dimension here. Maybe there's a tree behind right here. All right, I'm just going to sharpen up my barn. Now that it's dry. I'm just going to finish up with a little bit of pencil work here. Now you can use a micron pen or an ultrafine Sharpie as well, but I prefer pencil for these kinds of details. And I'm just doing a few little branches coming through my line of trees back here. Just a couple tree trunks and branches. Gives it a nice, more realistic touch to it. Also, I'm just going to kind of, while that's a little damp, just clean up that line around my barn. I'm just sharpening up the edges. Here comes the sun. We haven't seen the sun for several days. Oh wow, really changes the light. Now if you want to add a few little birds, you can do that as well with your pencil. And then that's it. I'm just going to sign it right here. Sign with pencil. And then what you'll have to do, either you can carefully peel this off when it's dry, when your painting's dry, carefully peel this off, or have somebody that knows how to use a knife cut it out for you. And that's it. That's our simple plein air painting for the day. Thank you. Bye.